to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, guys, we're checking out a film from 1986. That movie is Witchboard. Now, Witchboard is a movie about a bunch of people who decide to bust out a Ouija board at a party, and the ghost who they start talking to seems a little bit pissed off. Kind of sounds like it might be an interesting movie to me, but then again, I always find goofy and stupid concepts like haunted fucking Ouija, boards to always be kind of fun, alright? It's kind of fun and kind of stupid, and of course it is a movie made in the 1980s, which means it's going to be dripping with the sweet, sweet cheese I always love in these sorts of movies. I have no idea, though, if Witchboard itself is going to be any good, but I do have some hopes. And who knows, guys, this thing actually could be one of those great, great 80s cheesy horror gems. It could also be a massive turd. I have no idea. The only way I'm going to find out, though, is if I shut up and I push play. And I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Witchboard. So, guys, the story of this movie so far is kind of fascinating, but I do have a minor problem. We were kind of given the base rules to how these Ouija boards work early on. We were given, like, all the base rules, and they've already flip-flopped and changed damn near all of those rules within the first 20 minutes. And that just feels a little bit weird. It's like, when you have a scene where you deliberately come out and you set up exactly what all the ground rules are for everything that's going on in your world, it helps if you stick with those rules. And this movie has opted to go, oh, no, see, it sometimes does that, but sometimes it also does this, which feels kind of lazy to me. I'm certainly hoping that the movie, settles down and sort of gets into some proper, rules as to how this shit works over the course of the film, but so far it's kind of sort of playing fast. It's kind of playing fast and loose with its own rules, and that feels a little bit shit to me. You know, guys, for a spirit who's supposed to be only 10, this fucking ghost, David, is certainly fucking theatrical and creative. Far more theatrical and creative than a 10-year-old probably should be. I, honestly, guys, am not bitching. I'm just saying it's creative and it's at least keeping the film interesting. So that's at least kind of a positive. You know, guys, I'm just going to say this right now. My favorite character in this whole film so far is Zarabeth. The kooky, weird, psychic, medium fucking chick with the irritating Valley Girl accent. I love her. There's something exceptionally charming about her. And we're probably not going to see her anymore after this scene because she's already done her shit and she's gone. I would have loved a movie just based on her. Would have been 10 times better than what I'm seeing here. And what I'm seeing here is alright, but she's just too fucking awesome, dude. Hell yeah. You know, guys, this movie was really going good. It was going really great. Now we're having this retarded little, heart-to-heart here between our two male leads, who were former friends who apparently are now making up, and it's all saccharine and sappy, and you were right, I don't know how to love people. Fuck this shit, man. I actually kind of want to go back to the demon that's possessing the shitty actress. What's her name? Tawny fucking Kitaen? I kind of want to go back to that. As awful as her acting is, I'd rather focus on that shit than these two idiots having a fucking heart-to-heart in a motel room. This feels so out of place and kind of shit. Well, guys, that was Witchboard. The final shot was the dumbest goddamn thing I think I've ever fucking seen. I'm sorry, guys, I got a minute. Okay. Wow, that was fucking lame. Alright. Let's talk about this shitbag movie. Actually, no, I really can't even call it a shitbag movie. It's not that bad, but oh my god, is it ever flawed. Okay, I'm gonna start with writing. Because writing is This, guys, is one of those cases where writing is this movie's best asset and also its biggest detriment. You see, because we have here a real fascinating story. It's a really awesome premise, and I love the very thought of it. And it shows that the whole idea of being essentially terrorized by a spirit who you contacted by way of a Ouija board sounds cool. Okay, it really does. The problem is, once this movie gets up to that point, once it gets up to the we are going to possess somebody, or we're going to terrorize somebody / possess somebody because they used the board, all of a sudden the movie doesn't know what to fucking do. And it basically just sits there and it essentially fucking meanders for about an hour and it does nothing. Well, it does almost nothing. And you'll have like a scene here, a scene there that's really cool, and then you run into, just garbage for like 20 minutes at a fucking time. You have a handful of characters who really don't seem to have any point being in there. For instance, there is this fucking cop who was looking into the first death because it seemed kind of suspect, and he's not actually trying to investigate anything. He immediately thinks that it's Jim, and he never changes his focus from, it's fucking Jim. He never bothers to look for any kind of evidence or any tips. He's like, well, the sheetrock fell because the ropes were cut with something, and your hammer has a hatchet blade on one side, and it's missing, so it's gotta be you. Because apparently hatchets are like bullets and fingerprints. They're all fucking unique. I don't fucking know. And the whole time he's talking about magic and card tricks and juggling and others. This fucking cop is trying to be, interesting and kind of cool, but he's just kind of shit. So we have all the scenes with him. And then we have the psychic. I loved the psychic. She was an awesome... Zarabeth was a fantastic character, and I would have loved an entire movie just focused on her, going about and doing her little goofy medium psychic thing. Would have been really fun. Spoiler, shortly after I commented about her, she dies. So, we don't even get her in the final act. She's in the movie for only a couple of minutes, and she is the best character in the entire movie. Really, I think that the biggest problem when it came to characters is that Zarabeth really was the only one who's honestly likable. Almost everyone else is kind of, just there. I mean, because we have Jim, who's just kind of there. We have Linda, who's there just simply to, be the, like, vessel for the spirit. We have Brandon, who's Jim's former, friend, who's a yuppie douchebag asshole who apparently knows everything and anything about the history of, Ouija and spiritualism and so on and so forth. But really, they don't have any personality beyond that, and to focus on them for any extended period of time is kind of shit. Now, we do get a couple of attempts at trying to build character by essentially talking about how Jim's parents were both fucking drunks, so he spent most of his childhood at Brandon's place, which they had to mention after Brandon made constant swipes at Jim drinking, because apparently it runs in the fucking family and so on and so forth, all this waspy, snipey fucking bullshit. But really, our main characters are all kind of sort of dull, and it doesn't help further the story any, and you're really not going to feel any kind of investment in these characters. So whatever happens to them, you really don't care. Also, another problem with writing is they never figured out how to actually get rid of the spirit. So they throw in this like twist at the fucking end, and I'm not gonna spoil it. Well, actually, I don't even know if it's a fucking twist, because you don't know shit over the course of this movie. One of the first things which you are told when they are at the party and they bust out the board is the spirits can and will lie. So you don't know what the fuck is being... So you don't know if anything that is being said is truthful or not. In fact, that actually is a huge thing, because the spirit that's haunting Linda, is possessing Linda, is doing all this to her, is not the 10-year-old spirit that it claimed to be. It's a totally different force. So in the final scenes, when that spirit decides to throw out a fucking twist, you have no idea if it's fucking true. It was probably yet another, lie, but there's no way to fucking tell. And so I could totally spoil it for you and have no problem with it, but I don't fucking know. That right there, I think, was the biggest problem, was the whole thing about spirits can and will lie. And that all of a sudden throws anything and everything said by any spectral being in this thing, throws all of it into fucking question, and you don't know if any of it's true, and by the end of the movie, you're not going to fucking care. Ultimately, guys, writing here just kind of failed because they took a concept that could have been really promising and completely shat on it. They really, really dumped on it, and the few really fascinating scenes and the moments of real interesting character building are not worth everything else, because everything else is a fucking chore to sit through. Now, part of that is... I guess actually the big reason why I was kind of swayed towards it is because of the acting. I'm going to tell you guys that almost the entire cast here did a fantastic job in acting, save for one, and that is the actress playing Linda. Linda was played by a supermodel named Tawny Kitaen. There's a reason why people talk about her work in Whitesnake's music videos and not her acting ability, because she doesn't have any. There are numerous scenes where she's talking to the fucking Ouija board. There's nobody else there. She's being outacted by a piece of card stock on her fucking lap. The board does better acting than she does. And she is the focus of the movie. Okay? She is the big focus. And that really kills this. If they could have gotten any other actress who actually was able to act and was as sexy as Tawny fucking Kitaen was, which, by the way, she honestly wasn't even that hot she wasn't even that hot by 80s standards. You could have taken almost any other supermodel and they would probably have done a much better job. She honestly is sexy, but that really is the one thing she has going for, and even then she's kind of sort of a run of the mill, middle of the road, like, model. So even that really doesn't fucking matter. You could have gotten someone better. You could have gotten someone who could fucking act. But no, and her fucking performance is what absolutely torpedoes about half of this fucking movie. Because every other actor is trying, and no matter how shallow or pointless or stupid the characters are, or in the case of fucking the case of Zara Beth, they are written in just such an awesome way that they fucking just run the fuck away with every scene which they are in, what few scenes she was in. At least there, the actors put in a whole lot of effort, and they actually made something cool. And then along comes Tawny, and she fucking just shits all over the fucking screen. It's terrible. Her lone contribution to this film in terms of acting is probably the worst aspect of this. So, I guess, plus side, if you watched her in all of those Whitesnake videos and you're like, I really have to see her fucking naked. Well, you do get a scene of that. She actually does do a nude scene in the fucking shower, so I guess that's small consolation for all you horny losers who absolutely insist on getting that kind of shit. So, we do have that. So yeah, acting here is great, minus her. Okay, so let's just take that and move on. Going back to writing for a second, I want to talk about jump scares. I kind of like how this movie basically took the whole concept of jump scares and just openly mocked them. I say that because there were a lot of instances where they're sitting there and they're building up tension, and then Jim shows up and just goes, "Hi," and then somebody fucking jumps. I swear to God, Jim honestly is the cause of at least 5 jump scares in this fucking movie. And it actually does get kind of funny. So, at least, plus side, this movie was making fun of one of the lazier tropes in the world of horror. So, awesome. I can totally at least grant them that. Now, if only they could have slipped that into an awesome story, or at least a better written story, we'd have been in fucking business. So moving back on, so yeah, writing here is a mixed bag, and it's mostly a bad mixed bag. Acting here is great, -1 actress. Special effects, there really aren't a lot of special effects in this movie. I'm going to tell you straight up. In terms of like gore effects and all that, there is very, very little. So for people who are for people who insist that horror has to have mountains of blood and gore and everything else, you're not going to get a whole lot of that here. However, in the case of this film, it really isn't necessary. And I'm actually kind of proud of the filmmakers for not going fucking bonkers and spraying everything down with a blood hose. So, you know, at least that felt sort of cool, and what is here is certainly decent. It's passable. It's really nothing ultra special in terms of special effects. And of course, you can't have a Ouija board movie without a moment where the little pointer, the flechette or whatever the fuck it's called for the board, begins to move around on its fucking own. But that honestly is like one of the easiest fucking effects you can actually do. But at least it looked okay. So I am not about to fault them for it. At least they did it. At least they did it right, and it fucking worked. Music. The music in this movie is, honestly, I really do not remember the music, which is probably a good thing, because almost all of it is incidental background stuff, and if you really don't focus on it much, that means that it's at least doing its job, and it's setting the mood, which it totally was, and I'm going to at least grant them that. It at least knows how, the movie at least knew how to musically set the fucking mood, and that's always cool. Our sound mix here was fine. Lighting here was decent. In fact, actually, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, lighting here was great. I really don't often get to talk about lighting, but there actually were a handful of scenes here that were lit and shot fantastically. I'm talking about the cemetery scene, which brings up a couple of questions. Actually, yeah, I am going to touch on this. I'm going to flip-flop back over to writing for a second. So Jim and his yuppie friend Brandon decide to go down to Big Bear, California to go try to find out about the ghost that Brandon's been talking to on his fucking board, David. And they found out that yes, David actually is real. He died in like a boat explosion when he was 10. And so they try to find his parents in order to ask if maybe David had some kind of like a traumatic childhood and his short life on Earth. And they can't find his parents in the phone book, which apparently is resolved when they go to the cemetery and they find out that David's parents are buried in the graveyard, and they died 2 weeks ago. They come right out, they say it was 2 weeks ago, and apparently that is supposed to explain why they're not in the phone book. Unless the phone book was printed that fucking day, no, it fucking does not explain why they're not in the phone book. It would have been easier to just say that they're not fucking listed, but no, we have to justify that they're not in the phone book because they've been dead for 2 weeks. Oh god, it really, guys, is just moments like that, really stupid moments like that in the very end of the movie that actually almost make this thing charming in its own stupid sort of way. Now, I was kind of reminded because the cemetery scene is the one that's lit and shot so well. Camera work here is for the most part really good, -1 shot in the fucking ending, which looks like ass. Without spoiling, a character goes through a fucking window, and the camera tracks him all the way down to going to assume was supposed to land on a fucking car, except it stops before the character lands. So they basically had like a harness set up, and they had like the camera here, and you just watch the full fall, and it looks like shit. It looks cheap. It looks terrible. It looks awful. And that immediately leads to the ending. It's like, the ending just seems to come out of fucking nowhere. Like, we get this twist, which may or may not be a twist, and then character goes flying out, goes fucking flying out the window, and then the ending happens, and it just, goddamn, that was just so bad. Ultimately, guys, when all is said and done, I'm able to recommend Witchboard. If you can find it cheap, sure. If you can find it to fucking rent for like $2 or something, go ahead, because it's meaningless, harmless fluff that will be over and done in about 90 minutes. It's really not awful, but I would not recommend a purchase at all. I'm actually kind of happy that I watched it, but I'm probably never going to watch it a second time. It just did not grab me enough to warrant me wanting to watch it a second time. So, yeah, Witchboard, I would just say rent it. But there's no way in fuck I would ever recommend a purchase. Now, if you happen to rent it and you like it, then obviously go on out and purchase it. But it's really not worth it. At least to me, it is not worth a purchase straight away. So, basically, if you can find it, if you can find it to watch, go right ahead. But if you honestly, absolutely insist on buying it first, at least make sure you get it real cheap. And that's really about the best I can say. Now, Witchboard came off the Amazon wish list. The person who sent it in was Robert. And Robert, I've said this many times, has sent in a lot of stuff for the series. He honestly is one of the reasons why I've got such a massive backlog here of movies I still have to cover, which is awesome, because that means I always have a reason to make more episodes. And Robert, I thank you, dude. You've sent in so many movies. A lot of them have been good. A lot of them have been bad. Witchboard kind of fell in the middle, and I honestly would not have known that if you hadn't sent it in. And for that, I thank you. You're fucking awesome. Please, guys, swing on over to Robert's Amazon profile page. Check out everything that he has written there. He has a lot of reviews written over on Amazon, and if you guys can go over there and read, some of those, that would be fantastic. Robert, once more, I thank you. I've still got a lot of stuff here from you. I still have to cover, and hopefully I'll get to it all very, very soon. So anyway, yes, guys, Witchboard is not quite the best, but oh well. At least I was willing to give it, a shot. Now, for some reason, I really don't know why, but I feel like watching Ghoulies. I have no idea why. Perhaps, honestly, it's because I glanced over at my Blu-ray shelf and Ghoulies was the first thing I saw. But it has also been a while since I watched that, and that movie was pretty fucking good. I'm gonna go watch Ghoulies, and I'm gonna put Witchboard on the pile of stuff I'm taking into my local shop the next time I go out. So, there we go. So yeah, I'm gonna go watch Ghoulies, because Ghoulies was fucking amazing. Anyway, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.